Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise this afternoon to make my contribution in this place. We're all visitors to this time, this place. We're just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we return. A small but quite regular, beautiful turn of phrase from Queen Elizabeth II. This afternoon I have the honour in rising to pay tribute to Queen Elizabeth II, and throughout my contribution I would like to quote a few of the lifetime of many incredible moments that the Queen shared with us around the world, but also here in Tasmania and particularly in Bass. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to reflect on things that she has said and moments that she shared with us. From the very beginning, she declared, "I declare before you that my whole life, whether it be short or long, shall be devoted to your service." Throughout our lives in this place, the Queen has been a regular and positive and often sprightly, happy presence in our life, whether it be as a child you see her regularly on banknotes or stamps or coins. For me as an early adult, I would regularly see her portrait hanging in the council chambers or in local RSLs or in community halls. On the other side of the world, the Queen was always a constant and has always been a constant in our lives. And in the days since her passing, it's been a time of reflection, not only on what the Queen achieved in her lifetime, but also an opportunity to reflect on the things that we can learn about her poise and her grace as the People's Queen. Reflecting on her 70 years of service, when it comes to how to mark 70 years as your Queen, there is no guidebook to follow. It really is a first. And I remain committed to serving you to the best of my ability, supported by my family. And I think that's a really lovely reflection in that moment, that although everybody has a different experience of the royal family, the Queen as their leader for so long, that beautifully and gracefully led not only her family but also the Commonwealth. Did it in such a remarkable way as a woman from a very young age, having to take on such great responsibility and to do it with a balance of conviction and deliberation, with a balance of poise and grace, but also with a little bit of lightheartedness and humour, to remind us all that she's very much human and just like all of us. And I think you can agree, whether you're a monarchist or a Republican, Queen Elizabeth is someone who we all held great admiration for. Elizabeth was never meant to be the Queen. It was the result of the abdication of her uncle Edward that saw her father, a shy Albert, take the throne. Shortly after her father became king, the Second World War began. Throughout the war, Queen Elizabeth worked as a car mechanic in the Auxiliary Territorial Service, the Women's Army Service. She was the first female member of the royal family to join the armed forces full-time, and it gave her that naturally and quite beautiful common touch. Her marriage to Philip Mountbatten in 1947, the Duke of Edinburgh, was seized as an opportunity to brighten a national life still in the grip of a post-war era. When Queen Elizabeth became the reigning crown at the tender age of 21 after the death of her father, the monarchy was at a crossroad and its popularity and political power were flailing. But she pledged, as I have said, that she declared before us all that her whole life, whether it be short or long, shall be devoted to service, and she lived by that each and every day in what were tremendously difficult times and also times where she was able to do that with a lightness and a spring in her step. Regardless of whose company she was in, she could always relate, whether it be a commander or a commoner or a dignitary visiting her at one of her residences. She worked with 15 British Prime Ministers, from Winston Churchill to the most recently Liz Truss, who she met just 48 hours before her passing. She danced with presidents and dined with prime ministers, knighted Robert Menzies, and made Enid Lyons a Dame. Because of the deep affection we all foster for the Queen, we grieve in her own words. Grief is the price we pay for love, and she was surely loved by many. Throughout her reign, Queen Elizabeth visited Tasmania 7 times across her 70-year reign. Queen Elizabeth was the first reigning monarch of Australia to set foot on Australian soil in 1954. And on that tour, she visited Tasmania and stayed at the historic Connerville wool property at Cressy. It was the only private residence the royal couple stayed at during their tour. In 1970, the front page of the Sunday Examiner Express read, "Inside, children ambush Royal Rolls-Royce at Exeter," as the Queen walked through the north. In 1977, during her Silver Jubilee, she met with children at Government House and large crowds gathered in Macquarie Street of Hobart. In 1981, she was photographed with Premier Doug Lowe and attended the Launceston Show, where she presented a ribbon for The Best Jersey Cow to Jenny Sykes. On April the 27th, 1988, the Queen listed the TSIT Aquaculture Senior Lecturer Dr Nigel Forteith and described a crayfish held by Technical Officer Barry White in Kings Meadows. And in 2000, Queen Elizabeth II spoke at the Launceston Albert Hall and accepted posies from school children in Salamanca, accompanied by our very own, who was then the Lord Mayor, Rob Valentine. So in total, in her reign, she had 6 royal visits to Bass, and attended a reception at Town Hall in 1954, the Mowbray Races in 1970, again a reception at Town Hall in 1977, visited the Launceston Show in 1981, opened the School of Nursing at UTAS in 1988, and walked through the beautiful Launceston City Park in 2000. One of the things that I've loved as a young woman in community, watching her life and the way that she delivered her service to community, was that she also found moments and created what seemed to be a priority around having a little sense of humour to get through what would have been such a serious life. And there's just a couple of moments that I wanted to reflect on that I think many people across the world won't forget. So in 2016, when promoting the Invictus Games with Prince Harry, and there was this really nice interchange between the Obamas and the Queen. And the Obamas jokingly said, "Be careful what you wish for," and the Queen responds with the comical, "Oh, really?" and then Harry's boom. I think, when you've got such a serious position and you are often called on for such strong and difficult decisions, to maintain your grace and have that lightness is something that we could all take, I think, insight from. And again, that moment where the Queen officially launched into the 2012 London Olympics by parachuting out of a helicopter with Daniel Craig's James Bond, as the theme music played, and even the corgis making an appearance. Again, I just think it's this beautiful moment where someone can be so confident in themselves that they can be so lighthearted. And who will forget, and I know there's others across the chamber that have mentioned at her Platinum Jubilee, that she took tea with Paddington Bear and delighted people that she just quietly pulled a marmalade sandwich out of her purse. I love those moments. But with the lightness, she also said that throughout all my life and with all my heart, I shall strive to be worthy of your trust. So I would like to leave us with a couple of the lessons that I think the Queen has shared with us. And I've mentioned family, but it seems that Her Majesty always maintained that her marriage to the Duke of Edinburgh was a big part of their success together. And together they were really intensely curious about people. They wanted to understand people. They wanted to know what made people tick and what was within them that could develop human capacity. And I think also in this place, having such corporate knowledge or knowledge of a life is so important. And through her service, visiting 100 countries, travelling and creating an understanding of the world. So on this opportunity to rise, I say, Your Majesty, thank you for your service. May you now rest in peace. God bless the Queen and long live the King.